Hello and welcome to the Hot+keys. Hello and welcome to the Hot+keys podcast, your shortcut to all things pop culture. Oh no, that's Michael's start. I forgot. I hear Michael's thing way too much that I don't remember what the official one is. Oh no.
I just had to get a scream out of the way.
You know, it's so bad I have to look it up, Landon. Hello and welcome to the Hot+keys podcast, your shortcut to various opinions on all things pop culture. I am your host for this week, David Parker. Joining me is
Landon Browning
and everyone else. Everyone else is gone this week. We have some people who are sick and busy doing some other stuff, but it is the week of May the 29th, 2022, so it's Memorial Day weekend. So I went to the doctor on Friday to do some like clearance stuff so we can travel to Okinawa. And it was like empty hospital. It was really weird. So I didn't have to wait very long. I was able to go to some offices, and I like couldn't figure out why, because I was kind of out of it, you know, like the days and the weeks really just blend together for me. And it wasn't until I was in this one office, she was like, "What are you doing here on Memorial Day weekend?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's why no one's here."
Yeah.
So
people are out having fun.
Yeah, while other people are like out having fun, going to lakes and trips and stuff, I was going to the doctor. So
and then they asked you if you could feel when you're like left, like pinky, and
I said, that doesn't matter. Like I just
like, no, you can't travel.
Well, it's fun. Like the appointment thing is basically they have to clear you so that like if you have anything like severe medical issues, that like there's treatment for it where you're going to. Then that way they don't have to like, you know, shell out a bunch of money to ship you to, you know, stateside so that you can get like some expensive surgery or treatment or something. So basically they just want to make sure you don't have some horrible issue that would cost them money. So
you passed?
So I was in there like 3 minutes. The guy's like, "Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this?" And I'm like, "Nope." And so he signs it off, and then I'm ready to go. So I was able to hide. You know, all my debilitating ailments.
Your ED.
Wait, no. Brianna, if you're listening, that was a joke. You Landon, you started a new job. Was it last week?
Yeah, speaking of ED.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. I'll do a Michael transition.
Yeah, Michael transition. I started my new job at Safeway and Albertsons. I'll name drop them.
I think you'd already.
It's the best grocery store chain out there. I've always dreamed of being able to work for them. You know, now I finally get to live out my dream.
Be careful.
So I had 2 weeks of like safety, corporate, you know, like just the rigmarole of like HR and all this
fun new job stuff,
IT stuff that was like really fun. It was like basically boiled down to like sitting in this like conference room at the Safeway distribution center in Spokane, just like repeatedly trying to log into like various accounts and like having it tell me like the password was wrong. Like even though like, you know, like we just changed it to the new password and it like was accepted. So it was like 2 weeks of like me and my coworkers, we all know each other already, just like sitting in this room with like two other people, and like the amount of like terrible jokes being told, like because we were all bored out of our brains. Like at one point, like one of my coworkers like started laughing so hard he had to like get up and like walk out of the room for a couple of minutes because he was like crying. And then this last week was my first week like back like
doing actual tech stuff, right?
Like actual tech stuff, which wow, I did not know that like the job could be this good. Like you know, like all the things that like over the years like my former employer told me just weren't possible to like happen, turns out like they're just totally possible. They're just totally possible.
You're saying it was a good decision that you made.
Yeah, like it was like one of those things like I can't believe that like I ever contemplated not going. I know it's only like 1 week into it and it could go bad or whatever, but like I can't believe that like people were telling me like, oh, like my former boss was like, oh, you shouldn't leave, like it'd be a mistake to go, like it'll never work. And I'm like, after like 1 week, I'm like, yeah, there's like no way this doesn't work. Like, so and then I got my like first check
and you're like, oh, this works.
And I said, oh my god. I'm like, this works for me. Like, I've been talking to like my coworkers that left me. I'm like, I feel like we won the lottery, right? And they're like, yeah, we won. So it's been amazing. So
are you doing like, so far has like the work been more strenuous than you're at your previous company, or is it like because I know you're doing the same kind of work, it's just for Safeway places in particular or Albertsons places in particular, but
It's essentially the same work, except for I'm like allowed to be more thorough. Essentially, like at my previous company, they had all these other customers, and there's way more accounts. So it was simply you get in for the one problem you have, you fix it, and then you get out so you can get to the next service call.
And it's not like time isn't of the essence at your new job, but at the previous one, really like the goal really was to get out of there as quick as possible, right? So you can go service other clients, correct? Where like you have one client right now, which...
Yep, it's just one client, and it's kind of going away from the mindset of like, at my previous company, the goal was to make money for the company. Like the goal at this is to save money for the, you know what I mean? Like it's like, which almost is like, seems like a better goal.
Also, I think like retention services tends to be an industry that doesn't really go away. Because the bigger a company gets, the more they have to retain things and the more money they have to try to save. Where sometimes unless the business is failing, you know, where other places, if you can't grow your business, like you really can't get, there's less job security. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there was job security in a way at the old place, but like there was no, I don't know, it's different. Like at Safeway, like there's 5 of us, 5 techs for like 33 stores. So we've all been like assigned certain stores that are our stores to take care of. So we do most of the repairs. Like if I'm busy at one, like someone else will go to one of my stores, but like I'm doing like, you know, probably 80 to 85% of the work in that store. So like I can catch things quicker than like beforehand. Like it might, you know, I might go 4 months from going to one store at my old company. Now it's like I'm in these same stores all the time. I can kind of catch things, or there's more incentive to like somewhat notice something and be like, "Oh, wow, that doesn't look great," but like it's not broken yet, and like the odds that I'll get be the one that gets that call is lower. So there's like way more incentive to actually take more pride in your work.
Yeah, well, because it'll be like your turf, so you'll know what has been done previously. You'll likely know what needs to be done in the future. You'll know how good of a job or poor of a job, but most likely how good of a job was done previously. Because you were probably the person who did the work. So.
Yeah. And there's just only 4 other people to communicate with on like the tech side. So it's like, and we're all like, I mean, 3 of the guys that are there are like guys that I'm like friends with.
That was going to be my
football together and stuff. Like,
that was going to be my next question. Like you moved with 4 other guys. Essentially, they were all at the same company. So that probably was pretty nice because there's all these built-in relationships already and like understanding of how people like what their strengths or weaknesses are, or you just know what they're capable of. So like do you like that you were able to move with all these other people?
Yes. So it's like a new job, but mostly the same coworkers, the ones that I liked, and it's the same stores that we were already doing work in. So it's really like the only thing different. It's a lot more money and like just a new it's just new paperwork. It's like more paperwork to fill out. It's more corporate, but like. It's almost like good to have more accountability. Like, I'll be honest, at my old job, like you were not punished for doing a bad job and you were not rewarded for doing a good job. So there was no incentive to really do above and beyond.
It was kind of like middling work is what was the best.
Yeah,
the best thing
that
to
was
do.
the best thing to do is to be middling. Like be better than the people that were drunk every day at like 1:00 in the afternoon. But like, don't be like the gung ho, like work all night kind of person.
Because you're not rewarded for it.
Yeah, you're not rewarded for that. But you're not punished. I mean, if you want to go and drink like 8 beers at lunch and then go back to work, like there was really no punishment for doing that either. So did I say that out loud? Shoot. I didn't partake in that behavior, but there was a lot of people that did. So
I mean, Colby too. Like he's always just like drunk on the job.
He's always drunk.
I'm joking.
Drunk on the job. Every day I was calling him I'm like, are you sober, Colby?
Colby's probably too afraid. Colby's probably like too afraid to drink anything during the workday.
No, he saves that for after work. That's when Colby hits the bottle.
You guys went to a baseball game the other night. I guess it was fun / crazy. So.
Well, yeah, Will and Colby have no self-control. Well, like Colby always pre-games. Like he has no self-control. Like he'll have a few before he goes to the game, and then
Miller
have like a bunch
highlights or whatever. What's his regular?
Champagne and beer.
Oh yeah.
But it's fun. I felt a little bad because like Will and Colby and Oliver get very loud. Oliver was there too. They get very loud when they have alcohol. And there was like a father and his like 10-year-old son in front of us, and then like an old lady in front of us, and they were like swearing and like being really loud like most of the game. Like they were like looking back at them like disapprovingly, like, and they were just completely oblivious to like what was going on. I was like, you start getting like that secondhand embarrassment,
dude. When you go to a home Spokane, minor league game, like, I mean, you got to expect the worst out of the locals, right?
The Spokane Indians, they slaughtered. They like scored like 15 runs. Like,
who did they play?
The Everett Aqua Sox. They beat them like 15-7. It was like such a high scoring game of baseball. Like,
I was going to say that's almost like a football score, kind of like a defensive game of football.
Like a really bad game of football. 5 field goals and 1 touchdown. Like,
people sent some pictures. It looked like it was fun. I'm not really into drinking very much, but I like hanging out with my friends. So, you know, I probably would have sat there uncomfortably, like apologizing to the people in front of us, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I definitely saw a few times like people were like looking back or like all over like scream the F word or something. And I'd be like, really, dude? Like there's like a 10-year-old kid like a foot away from you. Like,
and your team is doing fine. Like,
yeah. Well, they were like celebratory, like screaming.
Okay.
So, but it was fun. I love like sporting events. Like I almost like them better. Like just a local team. Like you get some hot dogs and like a pretzel or something, and you just eat junk food, and you just like
it's cheaper.
Halfway, yeah. You like halfway pay attention to the game, but like you're really just chit chatting with friends and like outside. Like so.
See, that's why I was bummed I couldn't be there, because I was seeing the pictures like, man, that looks like they're having a good time. So.
And you always run in, I don't know, at a Spokane Indians game, you always run into somebody else that you know. You know what I mean? Like, I always run into somebody that I know. Like, I ran into like some like family friends, like within minutes of being there. And I'm like, yes, I'm at a baseball game. There's always going to be someone I know.
Mick used to, when he was in band, or it was either band or pipe band or marching band, one of those. I guess during the summer they used to have some kind of contract where they would work at one of the food booths. I don't know if they do that anymore at his old high school, but for some reason I like would have to like work there with them to like help raise money for stuff, because my parents would sign me up. So like I'm there like flipping burgers and stuff for like something that has to do with mixed band, and I'm with all these, and this is when I was, you know, like still awkward homeschool kid. Like, I mean,
yes, he had no social abilities.
But I mean, I'm surrounded by.
I'm David Parker. Want to play some RP? You want to play Diablo with me on my computer?
But of course, it's with band kids, so you know, I mean,
it's just freaks and freaks.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I think of Spokane Indians games. That's kind of what I think of sometimes, is like working the grill and doing it not for money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you did it for money there too, you probably wouldn't be making that much either.
Probably not.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's just something about being in the stands with like a ballpark dog with like ketchup, mustard, relish
with your friends.
Yeah. And it's messy because like you have to put all the condiments on, and then you have to like awkwardly like wrap the hot dog back up, and then like stumble to, you know, like walk to your stand, and then like when you unwrap it, it's like just
there's mustard.
The condiments
on one
are smeared
side,
everywhere, like it's just everywhere. Like
you realize you put like way too much onions on there.
Yeah, they didn't have onions there. It was just relish, mustard, ketchup.
Not a real ballpark Frank then, huh?
No. Dang. But I've just recently started toying around with putting onions on hot dogs.
I thought you didn't like onions, or
I
do you
now.
like
I've
onions?
changed. I've changed. Megan, my girlfriend, changed my ways on onions.
Dude, so. Onions for like when I make anything, they're usually the first thing I get out, because like they're so aromatic and flavorful, and you can basically, you know, you saute it, and then anything else you put in it, it's so good.
Yeah, no, it's great. Onions and peppers are probably my two favorite.
Yeah, I love onions a lot. Bree loves peppers a lot, so we will usually saute onions and peppers together, and then, you know, have it with some kind of meat or something.
I might do that after we get done recording. I might make a hot dog and put some onions on it, some relish, ketchup, mustard,
and you won't have to wrap it up.
Take me out of the
let's see. Have you? I've been watching stuff the last couple of weeks. I really haven't really been talking about it on the show because we've just been talking about some other things. But so everything I'm mentioning is not something I watched in the last week. I don't want people to think I'm a degenerate who only watches television.
Well, I stopped watching television for a month, so I have to catch up. Bree gave me the PS5 back, so now I can do whatever I want.
Gosh dang it. So when I finished my like month of reading, of like official reading, I got on, I think, PSN like the beginning of the month, and it was like May 1st or something. And I don't think I got on again until yesterday, which was May 28th.
Dang.
So even
you're growing up, man.
So even even when I was not imposing like a ban on PlayStation, I wasn't really playing it. I've been playing.
It took you 34 years, and you finally
34. I haven't really been playing any games much, except I did start one, but I'll talk about that later. But you watched a documentary that I had watched in the past that I've been begging you to see.
You've been recommending it for years. I'm
yes,
pretty sure.
for years. HBO's The Jinx, which is the story of
super funny documentary,
which is a story of a man and his
Robert Durst
alleged crimes. So you just finished it like probably within the last week or so. So it's going to be a little more fresh in your mind. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
I've already forgotten everything. No, like it's just like this. It's like a documentary about like it opens. They're talking to this old man. I think it opens with them talking to Robert Durst, or is this open with like it's about like they made a movie? What was the movie? All Good Things or All Good Deeds or something?
Yeah.
Starring...
This director, he makes this movie that's based off of this guy's about an alleged murder that happened.
Yeah, this son of a famous like real estate mogul in New York City, Robert Durst. His wife disappeared in like the 1980s, like mysteriously, and people thought he killed her, but there was like no charges ever brought on him. And so this director makes a movie about it in like 2008 or 2010, starring Ryan Gosling and Kirsten Dunst, I believe.
Yeah, All Good Things, 2010.
Yeah, did not do well in the box office. But the movie came out, and then the Robert Durst guy reaches out to the movie director and was like, I would love to sit down and like give you my side of the story.
And if you're a good filmmaker, you go, absolutely, I want to do this. And so that's what the guy did. He was like, sure, of course I want to do this.
So he does this interview about this because also the guy is like tied, like you start watching the documentary and you start finding that like this guy's like tied to like all these other people dying like around the case. Like,
yeah. And
you start piecing together, like, I think this dude's like killed like at least 3 people. Like, and it's just like this breakdown of them like doing like it's like it's like one of those like true crime like documentaries, but like the guy that you think did the murder is like willingly cooperating with the process, like, which is fascinating that like he was totally on board with them interviewing him through all this thing.
Well,
and
the guy too, anyone can be a killer, but this guy is like really small, really unassuming. The one murder in particular, I think, was like a violent stabbing death, right? The Susan Berman one. Was it a stabbing or was it a shooting?
Execution.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's these like brutal.
And one of the people like he hacked to pieces, like they found the body like hacked into pieces, like, and that was the only one that like, he was tried for, like it was like he like moved away from like the big city because he's like a millionaire, like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, he
like,
comes from
like inheritance,
rich family. Like his family were like real estate moguls and had built like very famous buildings in New York, and so his family's like multi-millionaires. Yeah.
So like the guy, like you're like, okay, it kind of seems like he probably killed him, but like he's so unassuming and like pretty well spoken and seems like well intentioned
and super like forthcoming and open. And the reason that like it was started to like looked into by the public again is because he reached out to the director.
Yeah. So, like, you're, like, listening to all these interviews and stuff, and you're like, oh, man, like, I don't know. Like, he probably did it, but maybe not. Like, you're going back and forth. Like, the evidence seems pretty damning, but
most of it is, like, circumstantial as well.
Yeah, like, you couldn't prove it. Mm-hmm. And then there's just, like, this moment. It's, like, in, like, the 3rd or 4th episode, they're interviewing him, and the guy goes to take a break, and the guy is, like, sitting in the chair by himself, and he's just, like, mumbling to himself. Like, he's practicing a line. Like, he's practicing it over and over again, and it's, like... It was like I was chilled. Like it was chilling.
Well,
you're like,
and then
God,
was
like,
it
this guy's like totally acting? Like,
and one of his entourage comes up, right, and says, "Hey, just."
His lawyer comes and goes like, "Hey, they can hear you."
Yeah.
Every word you just said, and like he just gets this like just for like a flicker of a second, you see him like kind of panic, and then he just goes back into character of being like totally like unassuming and like towards the end of the show though, it's like like they're just doing this documentary. And they kind of stumble across like another piece of evidence.
The letter,
like
right?
a letter. Like at one point, like one of the people that got killed, like a letter was sent that only the killer could send, and it's addressed like to the police, and they matched the handwriting to his handwriting. They go to like an analyst. So they're like spending all this time trying to get him in for a second interview. And he keeps brushing them off and he keeps brushing them off. They're like, we're not going to get it. And then they sit him down and they present this piece of evidence to him. And he totally plays it off like it's nothing. Like he's like, I totally see how you could see this is my handwriting, but like there's some differences too.
Even before that, like the letter had been talked about for a while because it has like an interesting like a misspelling in it. And there had been that misspelling in some other account of something that is not really addressed yet in the show. But Robert Durst, when he sees the letter, he agrees like, yeah, only the murderer could have written this. Like without a doubt, whoever wrote this letter, this is the person who killed, was it Susan Berman?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like he says that. That's like in episode 5 or the beginning of episode 6 or something. And then there's the whole thing of like they find something else, like the same kind of misspelled word with the same handwriting. Then they'd go through and do the analysis.
They compare them.
Then they try to get him in for that other interview. And then he starts to be in a little like hard to pin down for an interview. But they do get it. They do get the interview.
And my favorite part, like they like ask him, he's like, well, I wrote this one and I didn't write this one. Like he's writing, like he'd like sent her some letter before some money. And then they pull up both of them. He's like, well, which one was the one that you wrote? And they have them side by side and he couldn't tell them which one. And they're like, all right, well, that's all we need from the interview. And then he gets up and he goes to use the bathroom and he doesn't take his mic off. And then he just starts mumbling. He's like, oh, they got you. They've got you. Like, I can't remember exactly what he says. He's like, oh, they got it. Like, it's over.
I want to pull up the transcript. I'm pretty sure it's on.
It's like haunting. Like, it's like, oh my God. Like, dude, like this guy just like confessed to killing all these people. Like,
let's see. He said, so, according to the transcript filed in court, Durst's complete remarks were as follows. Unintelligible. I don't know what you expect to get. I don't know what's in the house. I want this. Killed them all, of course. Unintelligible. I want to do something new. There's nothing new about that. Inaudible. Possibly disaster. He was right. I was wrong. The burping. I'm having difficulty with the question, what the hell did I do? So that is what he says to himself in the bathroom. Also, like the burping thing, like because after they present the thing and they're like, "Oh, that's done," he sits there like behind the camera, like he's doing like this weird like
mouth thing. Like burping. It's really, it's like really disturbing.
Clearly, it's like some like nervous sort of
he's like panicking. Yeah,
tick, and he realizes that because when he's in the bathroom saying, killed them all, of course. Like, what did I do?
Yeah. And then he got convicted. He got convicted on one of them before he died.
He was convicted. So he was convicted in, I think it was 2020, and then he died at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole last section of that last 5-10 minutes of the documentary is just, it's scary.
Yeah, it's really scary. I feel like the filmmaker, like the director, is like, he's like, I like when he's talking about this, he's like, I feel kind of bad doing this to him. Like, he's like, like everything we've done is in like good faith. He's like, but I'm like, he's like, all along the time, he's like, I wasn't sure if he killed him. He's like, but now like we know, like that he killed. Like, he's like, we know that he killed them all. So he's like, we gotta have to do this. Like,
gosh, yeah. I remember the first time I watched it, like when I finished it, I think this was like probably 4 or 5 years ago. I told you, I was like, you have to watch this at some point. And I had a feeling you'd get to it eventually. I watched it a second time a couple years after because I wanted Bree to see it because I was like, she likes true crime stuff. I'm sure she would get a kick out of how interesting and scary this is. So I'm glad you finally watched it. Even if you know like the outcome of it, I still would recommend people to check it out.
I didn't look up the outcome. I watched it blind. I didn't know anything
I think
about it.
Told you to watch it blind. I hope you had remembered that, but I'm glad you didn't look it up. But even if you've listened to this and you've heard us talk about it, I'll put like a spoiler warning in the notes too, in case. But
it's a quick watch. It's only like
5 or 6 episodes, yeah. And I think they're only like 40 minutes a piece too. I don't know if they're even an hour, but it's on HBO Max. It's if you like true crime stuff, and you're fascinated by what rich people do, which most people are fascinated by the rich. So. I think you would get a kick out of this show. Anything else on the Jinx?
No. Just turns out if you're rich, you can get away with a lot of things for a while. It sounds like so.
Until you like hand over on a silver platter.
Well, that's the thing. Like if he just hadn't contacted them for that interview, he never would have been convicted ever. Like it's almost like he craved the attention. that he got from it.
It's hard too because he has this. I think it's Susan Berman's son, or is it her adopted son or actual son that like believes him like for years, for like 15 years that he's innocent, and then the whole letter thing happens, and like you watch the guy like basically like realize that the person that he's been protecting and defending all these years realizes that he's guilty, and that's like that was kind of a rough scene because like you want to believe the people that you like and trust aren't.
Well, the guy was helping him too. He's like helping pay for his college and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, you want to believe that the people that you love and trust aren't cold-blooded murderers.
Yeah, like, I mean, like he shot her in the back of the head, like execution style. Like,
I think that's something that's very key in another documentary which I watched recently. This is a long. Not long as in like many episodes, but long as in like been in the works for a long time. It's called The Staircase. It actually started filming in 2002 or 2003. And the initial episodes, there's like 6 episodes that were produced in 2004 and 2005. And then throughout the years, as there were developments in the case, there was like a couple episodes that came out 8 years later. And then Netflix finally picked it up for like an additional 3 episodes back in 2018 because there was just new things that developed. So it showed up on Netflix in 2018, but it's actually been around for the last 15 years. But it's another one of those shows, but it's like a true crime show about this
author, right?
This author who stumbles upon, allegedly, his wife killed at the bottom of a set of stairs. That's why it's called The Staircase. And so the documentary basically starts filming right after he gets charged, I believe. It might even start filming before he gets charged because he calls 911, says it's an accident, my wife fell down the stairs. The police show up. They pretty quickly suspect foul play. And so it follows like the entire process of like American justice. And it's like a fascinating look into how the justice system works in America because you get like basically the full run of it. It's interesting because the documentary, it's not like from the perspective of one side or the other. They follow around the defense a lot more, just because there's more interesting things there, I believe. And I think the defense gave the documentarians pretty much free reign to film whatever they wanted. So you see a lot more of the side of the defense. But the documentarians they like making true crime stuff. So they were like looking into certain cases that they wanted to shoot a film about. So they reached out to this case. It was in Durham, North Carolina. The murder, I think, was in, or alleged murder.
Oh,
whatever.
Oh, careful.
The incident was in like early 2000s, so like 2001 or 2002 or something. So anyway, I would highly recommend that. I don't want to talk about it a lot just because there's so many crazy kind of things that happen with the case.
Is it better than the Jinx, you think?
I think so, because I think it does something a lot different where it really shows you what the justice system is in America. The Jinx is kind of just like an interesting, like, this guy gets himself caught, which there's a great payoff for that. I think, though, like, The Staircase has more, like, lasting effect or meaning on people who watch the show. I do want you to see it at some point. The thing is, they made this documentary, finished in 2018, because, there was all these developments over the course of, 15, 16 years. And now the HBO is doing like a dramatized show called The Staircase. And they've had...
star?
Colin Firth plays the author.
Okay.
Toni Collette plays his wife, the one who dies.
Toni Collette's great.
Yeah.
Colin Firth is too.
Yeah, so they do some like flashbacks and stuff. So she's in it a little bit more than just, dying in the first episode or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I've been watching that as well. It's like currently running right now. So I think there's probably going to be 8 or 10 episodes for this season. I would recommend finishing the documentary before you start the show, because I think it's better to like experience like the real story
what really happened
before going into the dramatization. Because it's it's a show, so there's liberties and things. The show though is kind of cool because you see the perspective of also you're seeing how the documentary was made, because the documentarians are characters in the show, and you see them,
cool.
and you see the documentary getting made in the show. And it sounds like the documentarians too, they basically gave the showrunners like all of their archives of stuff so that they had pretty much free reign to see everything that was shot. So I'm guessing that they're trying to make the show as close to reality as possible, you know. But
yeah, you take some liberties.
But there's so much footage from, you know, 2 decades basically that they're able to pull from to use to make this HBO show. So I really want to talk about like outcomes and things like that, just because I don't think it's very cut and dry. I think that's what's kind of crazy about the show. Like there are moments where you're thinking like, oh yeah, like this guy, like of course he killed her, and then there are times where you're like, I don't know if he did kill her, and then you're like, oh, of course he killed her. Like there's a lot to this.
I like when it's a little ambiguous, like where you can't quite
I would say this is exceptionally ambiguous, and I think it's part of what makes the documentary so interesting too. But also it's kind of the same thing. It's like you see the family, his family, being like, there's no way that he did this because of like how close they were. But then you have the other side of the family, like the wife's sisters and her actual like biological daughter being like, we initially thought that, but just due to certain like injuries and stuff like that, like there's no way we can believe that it was any other way. So
that's really crazy.
So, like, if you liked the scene with the son, or like you thought it was interesting about like with the letters from the Jinx, there's kind of like a lot of that in the documentary, and then in the dramatization on HBO as well. The documentary I think is 11 or 12 episodes. It's not too long. You could watch it in a few weeks or like a month or something.
Or in a weekend if you're Dave.
Oh yeah. I think I watched it over the course of a week, but I would highly recommend that to anyone who is interested in the justice system in America, because there's a lot of things you're like, this is warranted, this is just, and then some things where you're like, I don't know if that's really that cool. So I would
beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
That's the important. That's really what the documentary probably should have been called, was like a reasonable doubt. But I would watch it, and I think there's some things that happen. There's some things that happened that I was like not expecting, like with certain kind of outcomes and stuff. So
our justice system is really kind of finicky, like kind of interesting. Like it's like not perfect at all.
Yes. And if you already thought this, watching the show will only like confirm that. I think if you didn't think that, I'd be curious to see what people think about it, because it's
I don't know the outcome of that case, so it would be interesting.
And I didn't know going in either. So, and
it's like one of those, like, you know how many times, like, I feel like it's like probably pretty hard to like get convicted on a murder charge, if like, you know what I mean, if like it's some you know what I mean, like the whole reasonable doubt thing. Like, so I don't know the amount of cases that someone gets up there, and like even as like a juror, you probably like, you know, they did it, but like you can't, you know what I mean, like you can't prove it. Like I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Like whatever you're watching right now, I would highly recommend finishing it, and then
I actually don't really have anything.
If you want to start this soon, I would love to talk about it, because it's fresh on my mind, and
maybe I'll start today.
I do think it's very fascinating. I added it to my Netflix list, I think probably months, maybe even years ago, because I think it was on Netflix in 2018. So I think I
remember it was a big deal when it came out. I remember people talking about it.
But like initially, I thought like, this actually doesn't look very interesting. It's like, did he do it? Did he not do it? You know, and it was someone like falling down the steps. Like, to me, it didn't seem very interesting on the surface level, but I probably watched a trailer and was like, I'll add it to my list. Maybe I'll watch it someday.
I add so much to my Netflix
my list is filled with crap that I'll never watch. But
yeah,
for some reason, I started it up one morning and I was like, this really interesting. So I would check it out. It's not a show for children though, so adults only.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know why you noted that.
Well, in case Colby was thinking about watching it, I was telling him wait a few years, then he can check it out. So. You finished all of Ozark, right?
Yes, I finished up season 4 of Ozark. The second part came out, watched it. It was good, but like the more I think about it, the more I'm like kind of disappointed.
Is it done? Like that's
they're done. Yeah, they wrapped. Yeah, I don't. How much of the show have you watched?
I think I only saw the first season. Bria's seen, I think, 3 seasons or something, 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad ending, but like, I feel like there was like 6 other ways it could have ended the show that would have been more satisfying. Like, and it doesn't feel like it quite fully. It's not like one of those like definitive endings, like they end it, but like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It just like builds all this tension, and then it just kind of ends, and you're like, I don't know. But like the acting's great in it. Jason Bateman is terrific in that entire show. And so are all like the gal that plays I can't remember the actress's name, but plays Ruth, like the blonde hair girl.
Is she the wife?
No, she's like the
she's like the local young person?
Yeah. She's great. The wife's great. I hate her character. I hate her so much. She's like the most like evil character in my opinion on the show. Like she's so selfish and terrible. Like
oh gosh.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, but she's good at acting. But like, it's like I'm like like. Every time she's on screen, I'm like, I just want like someone to kill her. Like,
oh gosh.
Like I'm like, I want her to like pay for like all the terrible things she's done, like more than anybody else in the show. So, but it's good. I would still watch it. There's they introduced in the 4th season. They introduced like a private detective character that like I really like. Like he's like some ex-cop that got fired for like his like cocaine addiction or something. He's like just really great. Like he talks
who plays
like really slow.
The PI?
I can't remember the actor's name. He hasn't been in a ton of stuff, but he's awesome. Like I would recommend watching it. It's not as satisfying as an ending as like Breaking Bad. Like I feel like Breaking Bad ended really well, and then El Camino was like a great send off for that show. Like years later that like I never thought we would get. Like
did you? I've probably asked you on the show before, but did you ever start Better Call Saul or?
I did. Yeah, I've seen 2 seasons of it.
Okay, which
I loved, but
the newest season, or not the newest season. Netflix is a little slow with adding Better Call Saul, which is a bummer to me because the farther I've gotten into Better Call Saul, I think I might like it more than Breaking Bad, which is maybe a controversial statement, but I don't know. I can't get like enough of that show.
I have to start it over at this point because I watched the first 2 seasons like live. Like I was watching them as the episodes aired on AMC, and I got to the end of season 2. Which is great. I remember watching the end of season 2 and was like, man, this is fantastic. And then I just didn't want to keep up with it live, so I stopped. So, but I think the last season is airing, right? Or is being filmed?
Yes, yeah, like the actual last season I think is airing right now on TV. But so I'm watching the season prior to that because that was recently put on Netflix. But Bree and I both really like Better Call Saul. I don't know. There's just it starts out to like a little. The stakes are kind of lower than Breaking Bad, but all of the characters in the show are just, I don't know, they're really engaging and fascinating.
Yeah. I'm guessing the stakes get higher too, right?
Yes, and they continue to get higher as the show goes on. So, I mean, I've been really enjoying what I've been seeing of the current season, or the most recent one on Netflix. But yeah, that's kind of a show, like, as soon as that came on back on Netflix, I was like, oh, Brie, we got to watch this.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it even has some like I don't know. I like that Mike from Breaking. You mean, like you have like some recurring characters from Breaking Bad. Because it's a prequel, but it's fun to see those characters pop up.
Well, too, it's like there hasn't really been anything that like I feel like it betrays the theme or the feeling of the original show of Breaking Bad. It really does feel like a great continuation of the show. It's not some weird quirky spin-off. It's not really different tonally.
That's what people were worried about at first. They're like, why do we need a show
like
about
some silly Saul Goodman show? And that's not what it is at all. And Saul Goodman, becomes, or like you see through the the unfurling of the show how interesting of a character he is and how he became.
It's his path to becoming
Saul Goodman. Yeah. So it's exceptionally entertaining. I find it very, very interesting, and like I said, I think I might like it better than Breaking Bad. So.
Bob Odenkirk's great.
Yes, I like Bob Odenkirk a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'll try to revisit Ozark at some point. I would recommend you revisiting Better Call Saul too.
I'm so busy. I remember the days when I had like time to like play a bunch of video games, watch a bunch of TV, and that's just kind of like gone now.
Hey, but you just beat Guardians of the Galaxy, so
Guardians of the Galaxy, a lengthy game. Took me about 6 months to beat, I'm pretty sure.
How long would it have taken Will to beat?
It took Oliver and Will, I think, both like a week to beat it. Oliver took like 2 days. I think Will beat it in like a week. So, good game. Story was good. Probably would have been better if I, played it faster.
Because you don't play for 2 months and you're like, what was going on again? What are the controls?
Why do I care about these people? Like, okay. Yeah.
That's the thing I hate about like stepping away from a game for a certain amount of time. It's not forgetting what's happening in the story, not forgetting about like weird intricacies like that. It's forgetting what the controls are and like how to play the game well. Like that's
thankfully
this
game is not difficult, which it's like one of those things like if you take a break from like a hard game, like you can't jump back in because like the difficulty ramps up. So like if you pop back in, your skills are almost reset.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It'd be like if you played 20 hours of Elden Ring and then you didn't play for a month. Like I feel like you're not going to be as good when you come back, right?
That funny you mentioned that because that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I think it was 2 months. I wasn't. Yeah. I was only like maybe 5 hours in or something. But I played tomorrow. I played yesterday for a couple hours. I was like, I haven't played video games or I haven't played the PS5 in 2 months. Maybe I'll play Elden Ring for a while and talk with my friends. So, that game is really fun. I do really enjoy it. It kind of just feel like a cooler Breath of the Wild. Don't tell Will I said that, but.
Well, I mean, Breath of the Wild is an overrated pile of garbage, right?
No, I don't subscribe to that opinion.
Who doesn't want to explore a completely empty world that has nothing to do?
Hey, I like Breath of the Wild, but Elden Ring is really cool. I've
never played Breath of the Wild.
Way better combat. I mean, Breath of the Wild is Zelda combat, so it's you your sword and then
you what?
Your sword. So no. Guardians of the Galaxy though was how was the ending? It was good. I don't think I'm gonna play it, so you can spoils for Guardians.
When Peter Quill murders Rocket Raccoon
and wears his pelt on his head,
his hat. Yeah, he makes him into a hat. It was fun. I mean, I don't think there'll be a sequel made because the game lost like a bunch of money for Square Enix. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then they sold the studio that made the game to Embracer.
Oh, so. Well, that's dead then.
For sure, yeah. So, but it was fun. It's kind of nice. It's nice to have play a single player non-open world game. Yeah. I don't feel like there's it's kind of just refreshing to play a game that the whole thing isn't just marking waypoints on a map and going to them and doing a mission. I love open world games, but. It's nice to have something.
Variety is good, and sometimes
it's when you play an Uncharted game, you're like, this isn't the best thing I've ever but it's this is nice for a change. I don't have to worry about upgrading anything really. There's upgrades in Guardians of the Galaxy, but they're pretty minor. It's nice to play a game where you don't have to think that much, and you just kind of enjoy it for what it is.
I agree completely.
So. I started Deathloop. That's a game that I probably won't finish because I'm instantly I don't know what I'm doing. I have to think.
I really like Deathloop. If you could I don't want to say power through because I don't think it's that hard. If you just follow what it says you're supposed to do, because it's a little confusing at first, but that's kind of how the world is set up. Is you don't know what's going on. You're this guy who keeps dying and waking up at the same place.
Banter. Yeah, I like the banter so far.
But I would try to keep up with it because once you get into the point where you can easily just cycle days and stuff, it's not too confusing. There's not that many levels either, so you kind of know what you're getting into. But also there's each level, since there's the different times of day, there's certain things that only happen at certain times of the day at these certain levels. So though you're going to be in the same physical space, the same 5 physical spaces, there's a lot of things that change in those places from morning to night. So and then if you like Dishonored gameplay or other kind of arcane gameplay, then I think it controls really well. It feels very smooth. The combat is very, I would say, satisfying. It's more shooting Prey? Heavy than what sorry,
have you played Prey?
Yeah, I'm probably halfway through Prey. I'll go back to it at some point.
Yeah, I really like Prey. Once you get into it, it's really good.
I really liked what I played with Prey. I think I got distracted by something else, and I just haven't. I haven't been back into that game for a while. But what I played, I really did enjoy. So I mean, I'm a sucker for arcane games.
Yeah, now you can't play them on PlayStation after Deathloop.
Oh, good thing I have a PC, Landon.
A gaming computer.
I was playing Prey on the computer anyway, so
it seems more like a computer game.
It fits
the menu interface
fits really well
and stuff.
for computer.
Well, enough nerd talk. I took my girlfriend on a small trip to Leavenworth.
Small trip.
It was like a weekend trip.
Where's Leavenworth?
It's somewhere in Washington. It's like western, like central western.
You can say
Washington.
you don't know. That's fine. You could say you just followed Google's
Central Western,
instructions.
right? Central, like it's by Wenatchee. It's like just outside Wenatchee, which is more central Washington.
Was it cold?
It was rainy. It was rainy and cold most of the time. We did get a good chance. We did like one nice like 5.5 mile hike. That was like way more exhausting than it should have been. Like,
I mean, 5.5 miles is not a short hike. So,
and it was also like mostly like switchbacks up a steep hill. Like it was 90% of it was like switchbacks. Like, I mean, like we were both like, I think we were both like trying to like save face and not stop for breaks and stuff, because we did it like in really good time. Like there was a couple points where I just had to be like, yeah, I have to stop. Like I have to stop to sit down for a minute.
She can't know how tired I am. He can't know how tired I am.
That's what it felt like for like a little bit. It was funny. Like, but yeah, I'd never been to Leavenworth before, and she hadn't either because she's not from Washington. So it was fun.
The area is,
I thought,
beautiful.
It's gorgeous. What was funniest though is to drive there. You drive through. This is like local.
The ugliest part of
you drive through like
the
Moses
US?
Lake area, and she made a comment like we're driving through Moses Lake, and I'm like totally zoned out because I've made that drive like
Yes.
I mean, probably thousands of times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not literally, but like at least hundreds for like work and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, wow, this is kind of pretty. And I'm like, are you joking? Like, but she's from Iowa, which is literally just cornfields. So like, even like the slight difference, like there was like, a couple hills and like a river was like interesting enough of a view. And I'm like, I can't believe I've literally slept driving down
Central
the road
Washington, I don't want to say I've been to a lot of the U.S., but I've been to a lot of the U.S. Central Washington is one of my least favorite places I've been.
Yeah,
like when you finally like break away from it and get to somewhere, like you get to the east side of the state, or you start getting back into like the trees when you get close to Cheney, like it's such a relief.
Yeah,
because like as soon as you hit like what is it, like Sprague or something, you're like, I'm in for a world of hurt for the next few hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like you get
rough.
the smell of cows, and you're like, yeah. Like, all right.
You're like,
but Leavenworth is awesome. Like
yes.
it goes from like just bland to like just instantly like gorgeous. And like we stayed like right downtown, like in like this like small, really old hotel, like in the middle of like the downtown. So like we were able to like, we only had to take the car one time. Like we went to the hiking place. That was the only time we had to use the car after we got there, which is kind of like, I like trips like that. I like walking places. Mm-hmm. Which is what I love about Vegas so much, is that you can literally just walk everywhere if you're on the strip.
Yeah.
And we just did like, I mean, we were only there for like, a couple days, so there wasn't too much time to do a bunch of stuff. But it was like, it felt like the perfect amount of time to like go to all the shops, go on a hike, walk around, eat at some good restaurants. Mm-hmm. Like we ate at like an Italian place and then ate at a couple German places.
I was gonna say,
I had this like schnitzel cordon bleu that was like, oh my god, it was like so good. Like that's what we had after like the hike we went on. Like we went on this big hike, and I'm like I need to eat. Like I was like falling asleep.
You're like will levels of hungry.
Well, it was just like I'm like I need to eat, or I'm just gonna fall asleep and not eat dinner. Like,
oh man.
And we got this. We got like a big pretzel, and like I got like a beer, and like it was just so good. And then like I passed out.
Bavarian pretzels are so good.
Yeah, and they have this sausage and pretzel place. Mm-hmm. Also, that's like more of like a casual eating place, and oh my god, like the bratwurst, like yeah, I love food. Got a bunch of fudge too, and like some sweets and like cookies and stuff, and it was like
Leavenworth is really cool. I'd only been there like twice, but you should go back at some point in the wintertime when there's snow and stuff, because it's really pretty then too.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to go there in the winter and like stay, like you have to book like
you have to book well in advance,
like a year and a half in advance. Yeah. Like we went in May, like when it's not like it's like their springtime, which I guess is kind of busy, but like it was hard to get a hotel like a few weeks in advance in like their non-busy season, and I felt like it was crazy, like how many people were there.
It is doable too, as like if you leave early enough, as like a day trip, as long as you plan it out right. So
yeah,
and because I've done that before, and it's not a big deal.
That's what I think we would do if we went in the wintertime. We would, go on a Saturday and leave at 5 or 6 in the morning, get there by 9, and then leave.
Because it's like a 3-hour drive.
It's like 3 hours. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too long for a day trip.
No,
if you don't mind being in a car for 6 hours in one day.
I mean, you're used to that. I'm used to driving a lot, so
I do not mind long car trips. They do not bug me. Like
they did when I was a kid, but like as I got
Yeah.
older and like was able to drive, I'm like, man, I actually really like long car drives.
they're fun. Like you just talk. Like I mean, like
yeah, you talk.
we just like
you
listen to music and like we just talk. Like
listen to podcasts. Like you see,
Yeah.
like as long as you're not just driving in Central Washington, you see lots of different kinds of places.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah,
So-
the car trips we've done through Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and California so far, like since we've lived here, like have been fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love drives. They're cool.
They're fun. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I anything else you have?
Let me think, Dave. Let me think for just a couple minutes. What was there? There was something very important I had to talk about.
I don't see
know.
anything. I have a 50-question quiz just for you, Landon.
Oh
and
boy. Is it the Are You Happy quiz?
no, you know what?
I think I'm happy now.
you know,
I'm
actually-
happy now, Dave.
actually,
Are you
I think-
happy?
I'm happy. Yeah,
I'm happy.
I'm typically pretty happy. I would say, you know, not
I think
much.
I escaped. I think I escaped the jaws of depression. I made it out.
You
like,
think so?
I think so.
The thing that like depresses me more than anything is stress. Like stress is like the one thing I feel like is hard for me to overcome.
Yeah.
And I just get stressed easily too. But if it weren't for stress, I don't think I'd have much to be worried about. But I would say I'm a very happy individual, Landon, to answer your question.
I'm pretty good at keeping stress. Like I don't get I don't feel. Maybe you can comment. Maybe you think differently. I don't feel like I get irritated that easily. Maybe I do. I don't know. But most of the time I keep it at bay. I mean, Megan did get to see me irritated on our car trip to Leavenworth. Like there was this like person that was like trying to pass a semi, or it was another semi that was trying to pass a semi, and I get so effing irritated when like a semi like and they like take like 10
they're driving
minutes to do it.
71 and the other semi's
like-
driving 70.
They're the other semi's going 70 and a half, and the semi's going 71, and they sit there in the left lane. They take like literally like 8 minutes to pass. Like
Yeah.
she got to see me. I was like just mumbling to myself. I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad you have to do this now. Like, and then like another car like is clearly not using cruise control, like because like they'll pass you and then they get ahead of you and they like slow down. You're like, oh, you can't cruise control your car. Like you can't use your cruise control. Like she's like just looking at me and I'm like sorry. Like
She's like, you're like, you were bound to find out at some point what I'm like. I don't get irritated when I get stressed. I kind of like get quiet, I think. But I don't know. Stress
I was
is
getting stressed
hard to
the
overcome.
last few weeks at my old job.
Not
getting
anymore.
stressed. Yeah. We'll have to do an episode one day.
An expose? Are you talking about
and talk about all the they pulled in like the last month working there? I would love to do that.
maybe after Colby's free, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. When there's less
Including but
potential-
not limited to cutting my health insurance while I was still an employee. So that's a free tidbit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was really cool of them to do.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this was this
They
week's
also
episode
gaslit
of
me and degraded me.
this was this week's episode of Hot+keys. We'll be back next week. I think probably with more of us. So anyway, but thank you for listening. Bye.
Goodbye, Dave.
Farewell. Bye, Landon.
It was nice talking to you.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh, God, I can't see.
I love you.
What's happening?
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Hot+keys podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, CastBox, YouTube, and other podcasting platforms. Visit our website, www.hotkeyspodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Hot+keys Podcast and join our Facebook group at facebook.com/HKHotkeys. Please like and review us and subscribe to the show on whichever platforms you use. Finally, you can contact us via email at hosts@hotkeyspodcast.com.